It's like the Guru Padmasambhava is said to have said that my view is as wide as the sky, but my respect for action is as fine as the flower.
That's perfect. That's perfect. In the Samadhi Raja Sutra, it says, who understands causality, cause and effect, that person understands emptiness. Which is surprising, isn't it? By knowing how things function in relationship, causal relationship, then you understand emptiness, because there's no absolute thing in the cause, no absolute thing in the effect, and therefore cause can produce the effect, because both are relative, or exclusively relative. So therefore, who understands cause and effect will understand emptiness. Whoever understands emptiness will become minutely aware of the smallest details of things, rather than float off into space or float off into nothingness. Because once you understand emptiness, you understand everything is infinitely related. When you understand everything is infinitely related, everything you do matters. There's an infinite consequence to everything. And then you become bodhisattva. Then becoming only when you understand the total relatedness of everything does being a bodhisattva make sense. If you only had a one life, and then you're nothing when you die, if other beings only have a one life and they became nothing when they die, you don't have to worry that much about their suffering, because it'll end very shortly, because they'll die soon, even if 100 years is soon, eventually, and when it ends, it's soon, and then there's nothing, so no consequence. And then you yourself, you can't be that good, it doesn't matter, as long as you stay comfortable, then you die, you're nothing. There's no long-term objective whatsoever. But if you're stuck with every being forever, like now you're interviewing Bob Thurman on TV, and these poor people have to listen. And then they turn it off. They just turn the switch off. That's all over, so no problem. That's the way we normally think. But actually, if we sort of realize that we're going to be doing this forever, they're going to be trying to learn this about ShyunYata and compassion and relativity and so forth forever, then they were, well, I better get it straight. I better learn this. And then similarly, if there's this whole thing we do, and you do in Bhutanese Buddhism, about all beings have been your mother in previous lives. Yes. So therefore you have to be kind to all beings, and you have Ma Semjen Tam Jeji Dundu. I do this, all my mother sentient beings, you say, yes. Right? Yes. So that's kind of makes you feel connected and nice to them. But then on the other hand, if you've been a mother, you realize mothers have a lot of anxiety and problems and pain, and it's very difficult dealing with the child, and then the child grows up, and then things happen to them, and then the mother feels horrible. It's really tough to be a mother of beings. And then you think, well, if I don't get to be a Buddha, I'm going to be a mother of every single being in the future. Not only that, they're going to have to be my mother again and make them a lot of headache and heartache and bellyache. So then when that's the case, the ideal thing becomes, let's all be Buddhas, and be born by apparition, and we don't have to go through the whole thing. So I'm just saying it becomes then strictly logical that you're going to optimize your relationships with all beings by becoming a Buddha for their sake and your own sake, if you realize you're in relationship with all beings forever. If you think you can get out of relationship with them, then you'll try to get out after, you might be in love for a little while with somebody, but eventually it'll be a problem. It always is a problem, and you'll want to get away from beings. And actually, when Buddha first taught, the early monastic Buddhas were beings who were mostly men and mostly Brahmins, and they were kind of alienated from other people because they thought they were so high and important, and therefore they really wanted to get away from everybody. So he let them think nirvana was the final getaway. It was the final escape clause, escape hatch. But non-dual thing makes you realize that you're stuck here. So then you have to make the whole place better. And that's really important. The key is, if you really get the vision of every being as your mother, it's as if you realize that we're all connected in the ocean of blood and milk, and there's no alien person. Actually, the secret of the culture of Tibet, Bhutan, Mongolia eventually, even India, why people there are a little less racist than some of the other cultures, is that, and therefore why other people tend to like them. Because when they look at another person, they see the person as more familiar. So it's just two different ways of doing it, you see. The emptiness thing removes the absoluteness of the sense of separation. But the mother thing is like a positive vision, bringing a sense of closeness and biological intimacy to every being. That's a deep biological realization of what eventually you realize universally for all beings. You know, it's not just, you see, it's this really, science and ethics and, you know, emotional health all connect together. Einstein famously said that, and he did not do it from studying Buddhism, although he did kind of like Buddhism, he said, but he didn't really have anybody to teach it to him in that time. But he famously said that we have an optical illusion. We live in an optical illusion where we think that we are separate from the universe. And then we sometimes extend that to include our loved ones, children, or parents, or brothers and sister family, sometimes maybe teammate, maybe it can extend even further, he said. But the trick is, he said, the secret of life is to expand that circle of familiarity and of identification endlessly, where we feel one with the universe. And that's what really awakening or enlightenment is. And he said that without bringing up Buddhism. He just said it as a scientist, understanding the way to relate to reality is to connect to it, you know.
You touched upon the fact that the term emptiness itself, and then a better word might be freedom. So similarly, the next question that I have for Doctor is the word contentment. If Doctor doesn't feel that we are deviating from Doctor's chosen theme of education, but I think at the end of the day, the show itself is less. So
Containment, you're saying?
Contentment.
Oh, contentment, yeah.
Contentment in a sense, because in Chökyi the term is chokshe.